anybody wants me to.
My curiosity is, are there any other commercial establishments than the ones that you named on the sign that contribute money or whatever?
Who else is on the sign? I think they're all nonprofits. The River Conservancy, perhaps the Conservation Commission. The only one would be the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps, and I'm assuming that's a nonprofit.
I would think so.
And there aren't any other commercial ones, right? Simeon?
Thank you.
Another page. I'm looking at the sign now, and it's all nonprofit organizations, except for VSCC, which is a not-for-profit credit union, and Equilibrium, which was the design.
That's what I thought.
What is NEIW?
The New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Commission.
Okay.
Yeah, they shortened their name to just the initials, but that's what it is. And they oversee the grant with the Lake Champlain Basin program. The grant actually comes from the Great Lakes Fishery Association. It's all this long chain of reporting that all of which is pretty much nonprofits and government organizations.
So the only one that's not the nonprofit is the Equilibrium?
Yes. And the credit union.
And the credit union.
But we have to acknowledge everybody's contribution. I mean, Sarah is Equilibrium's owner, Sarah and her husband, and they basically did the lion's share of the work on the garden in terms of design and maintenance. And so you have to, the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps actually constructed the garden, Lake Champlain Basin Program, and NEIPWIC basically funded it, and Sustainable Montpelier. Elizabeth Courtney worked with Sarah on the design and helped with brochures and information that we handed out. So, you know, you need to acknowledge everybody one way or another. It's not intended to be a promotional thing. It's an acknowledgement.
I think that's clear. With Equilibrium playing such a large role, they ought to be acknowledged.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest of the people, it's the credit union land. So,
yes, it's on their property. So there shouldn't be. I mean, they have obviously a large sign on the building, so there shouldn't be any issue, I would think, and with having their name on the sign as is Equilibrium.
Yeah, can I just clarify something?
Sure.
So yeah, it's not that there's necessarily an issue under the design review standards about having the credit union and Equilibrium on here. It's more that it suddenly triggers us potentially into a commercial purpose, which then triggers it into the sign definition, which means it needs to go through design review. It's a flow through of the way that the zoning regulations are drafted, that I don't have a clear out from requiring a permit for this particular interpretive sign, given what's on it and where it's located. It's just an unfortunate combination of circumstances so that it needs a permit, and because it's in design review, it has to go through the design review committee. I don't think that there's any issues with it getting through design review. It's just the way the language is written.
we can solve the problem by approving it.
Exactly.
Do any committee members have any other questions, comments, or suggestions?
The only comment, I like those low-mounted slant-faced signs. I think they're really nice.
And the idea is you can stand, you can look at the sign and you can look over the top of it at the garden, and it explains things while you're looking at it, which is nice. Just a point of information, Sustainable Montpelier Coalition is a group of, Equilibrium was in it, but it's nonprofits like the Vermont River Conservancy, the Friends of the Winooski, Sustainable Montpelier. So it's what we did is collect a bunch of people who were concerned with water issues and green stormwater infrastructure. And we all kind of got together and made a logo that will be consistent across all the signs. So it is a non-entity, basically. It's just a group of people who are trying to work together to get something accomplished. And so that's what the Montpelier Waterways logo is.
Well, thank everybody. Thank you guys for doing that. I think it's really neat.
Yes,
I do too.
nice
And I vote to
project
approve.
and a nice sign describing it.
I'll stop by the rain garden and take a look, hopefully soon.
As soon as it
Yes, as
rains.
soon as the snow melts. I can, unless anybody has anything else, I can read through the criteria for all projects, exterior design and materials of a new construction or alteration of an existing building. It says additions to existing buildings shall respect and be compatible with size, scale, materials, detailing, and character of the primary building and its environs. Additions shall not obscure or undermine the essential form and character of the original building. That's acceptable. We can skip some of the non-applicable criteria. And then lastly, landscaping, screening, and site furnishings. Site furnishings, including fencing, seating, or other types of furniture visible or acceptable. Landscaping should not be placed or designed in a manner that would obscure or undermine key architectural patterns. That's acceptable. Existing historic fencing shall be preserved, if any. That's acceptable. Mechanical equipment, utility structures, there's nothing there that needs to be screened. And then green fencing such as hedges planted with native or hardy landscape species can be employed as effective buffers. The landscape garden is fine, and that's acceptable. And then the sign itself. Size, location, design, color, texture, lighting, material of all exterior signs shall be compatible with the buildings and structures. That's acceptable. Sign design, color, topography, and shall respect historic precedents. Acceptable. Sign support structure shall be compatible with the building architecture. That's acceptable. And that's all the criteria that applies. And can I ask the committee members to, all in favor, speak your names?
Eric,
Martha.
Yes. Yes.
Anna.
And Steve. So the project is approved.
Thank you.
thank you guys.
All right.
I think Simeon has a question.
It's more of a statement, actually. I just wanted to quickly but wholeheartedly publicly acknowledge Paige Curtin for all of the work that she did to both vision this project, gather the resources needed to make it happen, bring the Stone environmental impact study that was happened years ago, and just really saw it from its inception to this point. Really thankful for Paige's dedication to this project, and the city for supporting it, and all the nonprofits that were involved. It's been a great civic engagement piece, and I really hope that the intended outcome of both mitigation of pollution into the river happens, but additionally that it becomes a place where people can become inspired and learn more about this activity and this project to further make Montpelier a place where this is recognized as a good thing to do. So thank you, Paige, And with that, I'll say thank you very much and leave the meeting and go have my dinner.
Thank you, Simeon. Let me say that the credit union was absolutely incredible to work with. They jumped into this process wholeheartedly and were just fantastic. We worked with a bunch of people in the grounds, the facilities director, Simeon, everybody was just so helpful. It was fantastic. And Sarah's been maintaining it all summer.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is there a sign plan for the parking lot that's next to the transportation building? Because they put in a garden there as well.
They did, and there isn't one planned yet, but that's on my radar.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yes. Not yet, but hopefully there will be.
So just a quick notice to everybody, that because there weren't any committee recommendations or tweaks for this review, we will be getting that permit ready and out as soon as possible. However, City Hall staff has been basically booted out of the office, out of the hall until Thursday if we aren't involved with the election tomorrow. So the earliest it would get issued is Thursday. So maybe shoot me an email if you want to be able to pick it up, if possible, from Audra. Otherwise, we'll just get it in the mail.
I'll just have Audra send me an email when it's done, and I'll come pick it up. Can the credit union begin site work or whatever they need to do? I don't know what the process of the sign. I think it's in construction. Can they proceed, or do we need to wait until we have permit in hand?
Do you need to actually install it?
Yeah.
And that site work? I mean, technically, you're supposed to wait till you have the permit in hand so that you can post it.
Okay.
But we'll get that. I mean, it'll be out Thursday.
Okay, just have Audra shoot me an email and I'll come get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Thank you,
very
everybody.
much. Thank you for your time and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much. We're excited about it.
Hope
Take
you get
care.
some good weather to install the sign.
Pile of snow up around the bottom. Anyway, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm signing out. Thanks, Simeon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We can move on to the next application for 99 State Street, the Malone property. Is there someone there to describe the application for us?
Hi, Alicia Filer with Malone Properties, and also Sarah Hoffmeyer is here. Sarah, Meredith, do you mind if I just share my screen? Is that okay? Okay. So we had come before you folks when we were doing the initial design for the 99 State Street revisions, and I have that if we can compare it. There was a big topic of discussion with the two existing Norway maples in the front, and their health and condition and whatnot, and so that's been reviewed. And also the tenant looking to move in had some ideas about the gardens in front of the building. So this is the area between 99 State Street and State Street itself and the sidewalk for State Street. So we had proposed this previously to keep the existing Norway maples and then have some additional plantings, new plantings, stuff in the front of the building. But in light of the more review of the health of those trees, there's some new trees being proposed, and I'm going to let Sarah comment on all of the actual plantings. But some of the site features that we're looking to spruce up or kind of finish off are that there'd be a raised granite curbing along the edges of the gardens. This existing walkway, which is concrete, would remain. There's existing granite benches that would remain. There's a much larger brick patio space on both sides, and we'd be reducing that to kind of just to be at the actual bench areas and not have as much impervious. those are the site features, and maybe Sarah wouldn't mind just mentioning about the actual plants themselves.
Sure. Yeah, with the federal style building and just looking at, it's always good to look at what the neighbors have and make sure you're getting in diversity. So something, especially with the trees, you know, they're looking at the different species that are on the same block and making sure we're using different species so that if a pest comes in, like we all know, emerald ash borer is here. And so if you have a ton of ash on one street block, you're going to lose all those trees. There aren't a lot of honey locust around. So honey locust is a rugged tree. Again, it's an urban area, so that's one that really survives well. And it casts light shade. I was also thinking about the leaves and how if you do have people walking on this area, the leaves aren't quite as slippery in the fall time as larger leaves like oaks or maples. That's kind of just a little side note, though. That's just like a week that it really affects. But then as far as the plantings go, just looking at different bloom times and making sure there was some kind of color. I was so happy whenever I heard Pat wanted to take out the brick pavers and extend the green space. It's much more in line with, now is it the right next to the post office? As I have a blank. Next to the community bank, but they have 2 service berries in the front and they have an extended lawn area, and it's much more in line with that. I think it's more welcoming in general, and just way better for stormwater management too. Anytime you can get that infiltration, it's doing a good thing. If you have any questions about the specific plants too, I'm happy to answer them. It was, I went with more classical and then also just looking at the surroundings. So a yew hedge is already it exists there and it's used in a number of different places. That's a great plant that as it can take full sun, but then as the trees cast more shade, it can also take full shade. So it's one kind of planning the next 5 to 10 years and making sure this is kind of a planting that you don't need to change out as the shade changes or as the conditions change. But I'm happy to answer any other questions.
How tall would the trees be when they're planted, and how tall would they grow?
Yeah, that, so we found, I'm also on the Montpelier tree board, and we plant a lot of urban trees. And unfortunately, the trees that are planted in the downtown don't grow quite as quickly or as are robust as you'd find with more green space around them. I always recommend planting trees that are at least 5 to 6 feet tall at planting. That way they have a good start, balled and burlapped usually. And honey locust, this specific one, if it reaches its potential, it will be 45 feet tall. I don't think it will get to be that tall, in all honesty. It would take twice as long as a normal honey locust, just given the stresses that are on it. But, and then its spread actually isn't quite as large. It's, you typically see them 20 to 30 feet with a spread. So it will be sizable. It'll just take longer than a normal tree that's planted in a park.
Sarah, the hydrangea that you're thinking about, are you thinking about colored ones or white ones?
Both. So, we were thinking of doing, and it depends also on the pH of the soil. Mm-hmm. You can a lot of times, yeah, there you go, you can see some of them. The white hydrangea, the arborescens variety, that hydrangea arborescens, mm-hmm. Those are really rugged. They just grow really, really well in different conditions. There are so many cultivars now out there, but these ones were chosen kind of for size, and the colors will play off the other blooms that are blooming at the same time. But hydrangeas in general are the later season blooms. But then I love the way that they hold on to their blooms even into the winter. So it just gives one more thing that holds snow and holds frost and kind of has that, oh, don't get me started on plants. It's my love. It has that lovely look to it, magical. Yeah.
Okay.
One other that item that I hadn't mentioned is that part of the plan is to have a wrought iron fence. So I wanted to show a picture of what we were thinking that would look like, just so you can be aware of that. So this is a manufacturer that I found, and I was able to get a quote from, just some of their pictures that they have of their fencing. So it's a very simple iron fence. We're proposing it to be 3 feet tall, and it's going to be very similar to this type of thing. That there's the walkway. There's some, either the sidewalk up to our building or the sidewalk along State Street. There's going to be a row of plantings, a fence to kind of break it and make it a little more formal of a garden space, not have people walking through, but it'll only be 3-sided. It won't prohibit people from getting to one side or the other, or not allow for maintenance of the plants themselves. So it's just going to be a fairly simple design, but a heavier, wrought iron fence, and not just a kind of small little plastic thing that gets thrown in. That was another piece.
Could you go to the site plan and point out where the fence is going?
Absolutely. So this line here, it kind of comes down, makes it like a little miniature U, is the fence line, and it would be mirrored on both sides. So it's shown about a 4 foot, maybe 16 feet, and then 12 feet, kind of 3-sided sections along the curving and edges of the impervious.
Thank you.
I think it's very attractive. I like the plan, I like the fence. It's going to be great.
Looks like it's very well thought out.
And I remember you're coming and thinking about those Norway maples when the project was first proposed.
Yes, I'm glad Pat reached out to Sarah to give it a extra facelift. This is going to be, I'm excited to see how it comes out.
Does anyone else on the committee have any comments, questions, or suggestions?
I guess my quick question is regarding that fence and how those posts are mounted. I assume there's concrete going 4-ish feet down to support each post, or how are those posts held up?
I think that there can be a concrete, like a sonotube concrete piece underneath, and it depends on how tall of a pole you're willing to put in, as to how big of a concrete base that requires. Usually the concrete base is 12 inches in diameter, so it's not a huge thing, and that would be under at kind of maybe like an inch above the ground, but it wouldn't be sticking up. It wouldn't be like a light post base within the fence post. It would be essentially hidden from sight.
How deep are you going with it?
I was going to check in with the manufacturer. That we haven't formalized any orders or anything, but usually they're 4 feet deep, so that the first frost doesn't start going crazy and skewed.
Any other questions? If not, I can review the criteria. This is an all projects set of criteria. And number 3 that applies is proposed landscaping shall be compatible with the neighborhood and the site on which the project is located. It's acceptable. Location and appearance of all utilities, including fencing, shall be sited to minimize adverse visual impact or adequately and appropriately screened from public view. In this particular case, the fencing is enhancing the landscape design. And then lastly, landscaping, screening, and site furnishings. Site furnishings including fencing and anything else visible from the street or side yard shall be considered within the context of the existing building, its site and context, and that's acceptable. Landscaping should not be placed or designed in a manner that would obscure or undermine key architectural patterns. That's acceptable. When practicable, existing historic fencing shall be preserved. There's nothing there that was there existing at this time. Mechanical equipment, there's nothing there in this application. And green fencing such as hedges planted with native or hardy landscape species can be employed as buffers. And again, the fencing here is the iron fencing that's proposed, and that's acceptable. Do I hear all in favor of the application? Speak your names.
Eric says yes.
Martha says yes.
Liz says yes.
Ben says yes.
Anna says yes.
And Steve says yes. So it's unanimous. The application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for the participants who came to describe the project for us. Thank you very much, and good luck with your project, and hope the weather improves so you can make some advancement.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Good. The previous one, get out your permit as pretty much as soon as Audra can get back in the office to do it.
Thank you.
Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from 9/21 and 10/19?
I would move approval.
We'll start with the September 21st. That was myself, Eric, and Liz. So Eric moved approval. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, and everyone who approves, speak your names.
Eric.
Liz.
And Steve. So that one is approved. And the next set of minutes is for October the 19th. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at that?
Yes, I'll move approval.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of the October the 19th, speak your names.
Eric, yes.
Hannah, yes.
Ben, yes.
Steve, yes.
I think I was at that meeting, so I'm not voting.
So that one is approved as well. Does anyone have anything else to add? There shows in 89 Main Street for City Center an informal review of the Skinny Pancake.
Benji, are you on still?
We have an email here. Is there anyone to describe your project again?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, so we would, after all these years, really like to put in a full head system in our restaurant. All of our other locations, we serve burgers in the evening. And there are some other limitations. We've actually done a lot over the years with the space given the we're looking to put in a grease hose so we can cook things like a hamburger, which we are not currently able to cook. And we've worked with the building owner and with sort of the local, most tenured professional group of food systems in the area called NevTech. Look for an internal route to try to run the vent, and there is no viable internal route, is what they have both repeatedly come back to, which leads us looking to the front of the building, which is not where I would want to go, but I don't see another option. And before the pandemic, we had engaged with the city council and asked about this, and the suggestion was maybe it could be painted. So we submitted a proposal from a local artist, and it was resoundingly rejected by the council. So here I am to ask if there a different type of art where we could try to paint it in so it looks like a brick. Is there a viable way that we could run a vent stack like for a hood system up on Main Street coming out of the Skinny Pancake? Yeah, I think it would come out at the top of the fourth floor.
Benji, would you like me to share my screen with the packet so that everybody can be looking at the same thing?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
All right. So I've got up right now where they're thinking about running the stack, where they've been able to find a place to run it. Right, here's another view from the other side. And then you're going to have to bear with me while I rotate the screen all the way around, because for some reason in this view it won't let me rotate it counterclockwise. Here we go. So this, I think, Benji, you said was what you've done in Burlington a few years ago, right?
Yes, that was, we painted it to blend in to the facade behind it.
Yep, and this is, you said you took this picture just recently, correct?
I did, yes, that right before like a month ago.
Please feel free to ask me to scroll or do whatever on this.
Can you show us the Montpelier building drawings?
I'll have to rotate again, so give me a second.
Okay. So the duct is 12 inches wide and 12 inches deep, it looks like.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And it's just flush to the building, except up on the roof.
It's like, affixed with brackets, maybe a few inches off. It's the same duct you would see, for any restaurant. So,
right.
It goes up to the second floor, then takes a diagonal across.
I think that's in the window.
Yeah. Well, painting it would certainly help kind of camouflage it, I guess.
Yeah, I think the original proposal was like painting it was not trying to hide it, but actually like it was a Mary Lacey. She's done a lot of large scale painting in the area, and it was like very artistic, and noticeable intentionally. But we can also paint it to look like brick.
I have a question.
I really want to be supportive of the skinny pancake, but I have a very hard time with this vent in the front of the building. If it was in the side of the building, I wouldn't have a problem at all. And I understand your situation. I understand you're stuck.
Yeah. Thanks, Martha. I'm not doing myself any favors in saying this, but I understand why you would have some concern. And so my question is like, if your decision is thanks but no thanks, that okay, I would like to do this if you gave me permission, but if you feel like it's not something you want to give permission, then I just sort of kind of want to close the book on the option. But it got interrupted sort of mid-pandemic, early pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We never came to the idea of can we camouflage it.
Mm-hmm.
There's that to consider.
A question, the Bluestone Pizza has a direct vent out on the street, and I'm not particularly fond of it, but is there any chance of doing that?
No, I believe that's grandfathered in, although it has been pointed out to me as, well, if they can do it, why can't you? And that's what grandfathering is, you know.
I just had to ask the question. So.
Yeah.
I have a question about the structure of the building. I'm assuming that the skinny pancake, that the floor of your space is a slab. There's no space or crawl space underneath it, correct?
That is my understanding.
And then what's the height of the ceiling in the skinny pancake?
I don't know, maybe 10 feet. It feels a little, I'm not quite sure, but I would guess 10 feet.
Now, your neighbor next door is still AT&T?
Yes.
Has anything been explored about running a horizontal duct from your space through AT&T to the outside of the building on the side of the building?
Yeah, we talked about that, and it was deemed unfeasible. We'd have to tear out their drop ceiling in order to run the duct. We'd interrupt their business for like a week. It doesn't seem like that's...
There's no space above the drop ceiling?
No, in fact, there is. In fact, there was once a duct that ran there for a bagel shop a long time ago, I was told. But it's a matter of, it's another operating business. Who are we to step in there and say, hey, we're going to tear out your roof and disrupt your business, for a week?
The Bagel Works was in where AT&T.
That's right.
Other question is there any way you can get a straight shot up the building by, for example, going into the space, the entry space?
That seems possible, as it's wouldn't necessarily interrupt AT&T. So if that worked thereby, but you see the way the windows are laid out, I'm not sure that would help.
Right.
But I wonder if you could run up the stairway there. Inside the building, I mean.
When we've explored routes inside the building, there's a tenant upstairs, and it intersects their space. I have been told, I haven't looked at their space specifically, but what I have been told by the landlord is it's not feasible.
And just a quick note on the
where was this?
Go ahead, Steve.
I had a question about the pre-existing duct for the bakery or whatever was there before. Is that above the suspended ceiling?
Well, I don't think the duct is there anymore, but I think the bagel shop had a duct that was running out the side of the building, not on Main Street. So it suggests that if we could cross their...
They fried much stuff there. You know, it was mostly a heat and steam vent. The other question, I hate, you know, suggesting designs because you clearly thought about this a lot, but running your ductwork sort of at the corner in the front of the building where your seating is now outside.
Well, we certainly, I think we haven't looked in that direction because it seemed like that was only more prominent at the corner of State and Main like that.
If it could be run up right on the corner of the building, it wouldn't be very visible at that point. Not like a zigzag up the side.
I'm totally happy to explore options that the community thinks are potentially viable and come back with some designs. I think I'm trying to get a sense whether you feel there is anything viable working on the Main Street facade. So if you think it's the corner of the building, I'm open to looking at that.
I agree with Martha that I'd really have a hard time approving it. It's right on a primary facade of the Main Street on the building, and the kind of zigzag bothers me because if you just had a straight box going up the side, it becomes almost, you know, it's not very visible. And painting it to match the bricks, it's just not very very feasible. I mean, you've got, thank you for putting that up. I don't know who did it, but.
If you can describe where you were thinking, Eric, I could run the pointer.
I see there's two places. One is just right on the corner, right, yep, up that way. And the other would be back in the corner, in that corner.
I just a quick note, and this is something that I'm not totally sure of, and Benji, I don't know if you have that resource handy, but since you're talking about like burgers and frying stuff, I don't know how much horizontal venting they can have for that kind of venting that has grease potentially collecting it. I just don't know.
You can travel a distance horizontally. Whenever you have a turn, you need to have a clean out. And so the more turns you have, the more clean outs you have. There is a fire escape sort of right in the corner next to the city center facade and our building, right in there. So I don't know if we could get in there. My hunch is we couldn't.
Maybe here?
Maybe if we penetrated right at the front. Yeah.
You could come out above the sign band and go up on either corner. That would be good. I don't know what the inside, it must be an office in the corner on the second and third floors. I don't know what's in those corners. I'm thinking about the inside.
I'm curious if you folks feel that working on that, what would it be, on that other face, not the Main Street face, but the sort of one that points towards Langdon Street.
Patio face.
Yeah, would that improve the situation?
It would for me, Benji. I could live with Eric's suggestion of going up a corner there.
Okay.
I have a question. Was Black River Design ever consulted regarding the potential to place a vent?
I'm not familiar with Black River Design.
Because they're the ones who originally designed the building.
No, that's not.
I'm sorry?
Black River did not design the building. It was a guy named Bill Richmond that designed, and he was independent.
And the answer is no. We engaged NevTech. They're like pushing 40 years of installing hood systems throughout Vermont mostly, but elsewhere as well. Yeah. I can come back with a proposal that focuses on the corner to the left of the blue flag. For what it's worth, in my mind's eye, between the blue flag and the American flag, I think is that a Vermont flag? Or between the American flag and the Canadian flag, seems like it might be a little less invasive than right on the corner. Does anyone?
I think right on the corner would blend more. Would be able to blend it in more.
And would you want us to try to paint it in like brick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't necessarily. If you extended it up that corner and right on the corner, and painted it to match the I don't know what the material is above the sign band, it would look like part of the building.
Right. So we'd paint that section gray, but as it went up, because it has to go up past the roof line, we would try to continue to blend it in as brick.
Yeah, I would just, well,
I can support it on the corner as well. I'm curious about whether it would also be maybe a place for some of our the various different Montpelier banner signs that you can kind of see one in the corner on the light post. That one, yes, and then further down, feels like it might be a nice way to be. Sorry, come. Yes, right. You can. I'm pointing at it, Meredith. Why can't you see me point? It's yes, on that well, you can, on the various light poles, there's all these different Montpelier signs. Mm-hmm. And I think there is possibly some way to make that structure for the vent be able to maybe be something that helps beautify the downtown with things like that makes it feel maybe a little bit more intentional. I don't know.
Some kind of a design painted on it and actually turn it into something like a sign.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I thought about making it into a column. I'd put a round duct up and make it into a column, but
I had that same thought. I think there's opportunity to go up that side of the building, and I would be interested to see what you came back with. And I think that's a great suggestion of yours, Eric, to move it over there. And I feel like in that moment, even if it did become more of a statement piece of art, it makes a lot more sense on that side than it does with some weird turn. And
sure,
I feel like that's a place where a piece of art would go that would feel intentional, whereas on the other side it doesn't feel intentional.
So I obviously, like Montpelier, like great about celebrating the arts, and if we can contribute in that way, like that would be really fulfilling for us. The challenge there is one person's great artistic taste is the next person's
Agreed.
So how do we get to a place that feels good for y'all and then ultimately the city? I certainly will come forward with one version which is painted in as brick the next time I show up, kind of regardless, just so it's there as a placeholder. I was thinking of the Troy, New York sign. I don't know if you're familiar with Troy, New York. They have a logo that's it is the Troy logo. And as y'all were talking, I was imagining some kind of statement. We could, you know, I mean, it can change, you know, we could over time, could say something different over the course of years, we could repaint it, but, do you all have any thought on process there other than us just kind of pulling something out of a hat and saying, what do you think?
My suggestion would be that I get you in touch with Montpelier Alive,
Okay.
Who coordinated all those banners that are on all the light posts and have also coordinated some other placemaking work here in Montpelier, and see if they have something that they've been working on that maybe could team up with you in fairly short order. But I'll connect.
One thing to keep in mind is that building was designed to be Art Deco. You can look at the entranceway. The main entrance is that way, and it actually had a cornice at one time and lintels over the windows, and that was taken out for financial and federal review pieces. So some kind of a design that fit in with that Art Deco motif might work pretty well.
Can you say that Arctic, what was that?
Art Deco. It's just, look it up, A-R-T and then space D-E-C-O. It's just an architectural style.
Oh, okay, I missed it. Okay, Art Deco. Okay. Yeah, cool. I can reach out, or you know, directly, or wait to get put in touch with Montpelier Live and look to put a proposal forward that, ideally builds on vibrancy, doesn't detract from it.
The idea of trying to conceal it by painting it like brick, I don't care much for that because it's never really going to look right.
Yeah.
And how good the stone is a little different.
Yep.
We showed in Burlington.
Yeah. I mean, you could just paint it the color of brick, but I agree with Eric. I don't think it should look like bricks. This is an option, but there's other options too.
I think painting it the same color as the material over the sign band. I don't remember what that is, but so it's just a white post going up the side of the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
If I start generating with Montpelier Live, are words an option, or should we stay away from words?
I don't think so. I think words would be fine. I think you know, if it just said "Welcome to Montpelier" on it, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm into that. Okay. Thank you all so much for the creative.
We appreciate your efforts.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes, that's a very, very tough problem to try to solve and still meet enough criteria.
Yeah, thanks, Benji.
Yeah, good luck with it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
I'll be in touch and we'll work. You know, I'll help as needed to help you get an application put together.
Cool. Thank you. You're awesome. Really appreciate it, everyone. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for coming and describing it for us.
Gotcha. Thanks for your time. Bye.
Does anyone have any other business at this point?
Nope.
Only thing I'd like to do is remind people that the Historic Preservation Commission is going to be working on a guidebook for these new design review regs, and any suggestions anybody have would be more than welcome.
Yeah, the HPC will be meeting again next week. And so if you have any thoughts on guidelines before then, that would be great, but we'll still take them after that as well. We're working at this point on a grant application as well as an RFP to try and get proposals to actually then effect on that grant, hoping that we actually win some money. And then the other separate item I just wanted to tell you, as well as any public watching, is that City Hall is the city clerk's office, of course, is going to be open to the public for voting tomorrow, but other offices in City Hall will be closed. And then City Hall will be closed to the public for the remainder of this week until next Tuesday, because there's going to be so many people going through City Hall tomorrow that they want to make sure they give it all a thorough cleaning.
Thanks.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Unless anyone has anything else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Certainly.
I second it.
All in favor of adjournment, speak your names.
Eric.
Martha.
Liz?
And
Anna.
And Steve. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see you without a mask, even.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye now.
Goodbye.
Bye.